Thank you very much for joining me. It is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. Yep, it's a rockin' and a rollin' there in the Yellowstone area. Oh, they're moving the camera to Old Faithful. All right. There's been about 40 earthquakes within the last week along the Sawtooth fracture zone, the fault zone. Yeah, things are definitely heating up there at Yellowstone. There was a hydrothermal eruption on the 31st. Biscuit Basin has been closed since last year when they had the hydrothermal eruption. Things are definitely heating up there at Yellowstone, and they don't want people to know it. Don't want to lose those dollars, right? Don't want to create panic. It would affect the stock market. It would affect the economy, which has been really bad. But here we're looking at the back basin of Yellowstone. We got some geysers going off, a lot of activity, a lot of earthquakes. The largest earthquake that they've had was a magnitude 4.0. The area of the Sawtooth fault zone is capable of having a magnitude 7.5. Let me show you. Marked in red is all the earthquakes that we've had since the 27th of last month. Yeah, and the largest, like I said, was a magnitude 4.0. Drawn out in red, you can see the river here. Fault lines often follow creeks, streams, and rivers, is the Sawtooth fault zone. Now this fault zone goes all the way down to the Snake River Plateau where there was previous eruptions. And we'll bring it down. Okay, right there. And I got the different, more recent eruptions drawn out in yellow. So more than likely what is going on is we got magma coming up at Yellowstone, and it travels west under the ground and putting pressure on these different fault zones. And this one just so happens to be the Sawtooth fault zone. You know, and I've talked about the coronal holes, the X flares, the M flares. If a fault zone is ready to go, those three things will, you know, increase the likelihood of an earthquake. So you can see here back, when was this? There was a magnitude 6.5. Now that was in 2020, March 31st. Right there. And it's not far from where we're having all these earthquakes. So going back down here to the Snake River Plateau, they always talk about the last major eruption, but not about the smaller eruptions. There's been at least 40 smaller eruptions since the last major eruption. This one here, which is south of the Sawtooth fault zone, only happened about 2,000 years ago. That was Craters of the Moon. Then we got Black Butte crater lava field. That happened about 12,000 years ago. Now, if there was a magnitude 7.5 earthquake along the Sawtooth fault zone, it would definitely be felt in Boise, Idaho, and that earthquake would cause significant damage. Has this recent swarm of earthquakes made you think about maybe preparing? Have an evacuation plan? Have a bug-out kit? Have you done any of those things? Do you have medical supplies for an emergency before responders can come and help you? Not just bandages and water. What about a tourniquet? If you do have a tourniquet because of a major injury and need to cut off the flow of blood, do you know how to use it? Have you practiced with it? Now, this earthquake that they had back in 2020, the 6.5, did not break the surface, which is unusual for quakes of that size. But it did trigger landslides, avalanches, and debris slides. There was liquefaction. The shaking caused liquefaction at Stanley Lake, where water-saturated sediment behaved like liquid, leading to ground subsidence. The collapse of the inlet delta, and the disappearance of a popular beach. There was small cracks, fissures that did open up, and sand blowholes were also observed. That earthquake occurred during the COVID pandemic and after a large snowstorm, which hindered initial fieldwork. The Sawtooth Fault Zone is an east-dipping fault, meaning it involves vertical motion where one side of the fault moves downward relative to the other side, and it runs approximately 40 miles along the east base of the Sawtooth Mountains near Stanley and Redfish Lake. I keep saying that geology is about 50 years behind compared to other sciences, and this fault zone was not discovered until about 2010. That earthquake was the second largest earthquake to occur there in Idaho. The other one was in 1983, a magnitude 6.9 by Bora Peak. Yeah, I'm only working on my second cup of coffee. Thank you to those of you that have bought me coffee. With the cost of coffee and inflation, yeah, it's pretty expensive. And thank you very much for the super stickers that you guys put here on YouTube, and for the PayPal donations. Yeah, it went to a new vacuum cleaner. Had to break down and get a new vacuum cleaner. The other one was duct taped together. The latch to hold the handle upright was broke, and the latch to wrap up the wire was also broke. So I thought it was time. It was on sale. It was $20 off. But I do a lot of vacuuming with the dogs and the cats. Here's the area of the 1983 earthquake, the magnitude 6.9. That earthquake, created a lot of damage. There was at least one death. I believe it was a young child, where a wall collapsed on her when she was walking home from school, I believe. So here's the data that I downloaded. The one on the far left is Moose Creek, Idaho. The one in the middle is Denny Creek. And the one on the far right is Madison River. For some reason, that one stopped working. It's been stopping and going. But the most recent earthquake that they are reporting, they did not fudge about it, being a magnitude 3.9. This here is what's called the spectrogram, where it shows the heat, the toxic gases, heated water that comes up. This earthquake here occurred at 6:59 a.m. Central Daylight Time. 10 people said they felt it. It was given an intensity level of 4. So to those that reported it, it felt like maybe a 3 to a 3.5. Felt indoors by many, outdoors by a few. If they were still sleeping, they were woken up. Dishes, windows, doors were rattling. Automobiles rocked noticeably. Here's a map of the felt report. Looks like the farthest maybe was Boise, Idaho, which was 120 miles away, or kilometers, excuse me. So that would be about 75 miles. Can you imagine if you had a 7.5? And there was one report from there. We got another one, intensity 3. In Garden City, another report. Haley, one report there, 104 kilometers. So that would be about 64 miles. And it looks like to the north, Chalice, Idaho, 62 kilometers. So that would be about 38 miles. The next 3.9 earthquake was a little more than an hour ago at 8:06 a.m. as I'm recording this earthquake. Now the reason I went to this one, we do have a moment tensor ball. You can see here how the fault line dipped going southeast a little bit. The blue lines here, the blue colors actually show compression. And then the P, which is the white area, shows the direction of the earthquake wave. And like I said, it moved going southeast. There was also a 3.8 that 4 people said that they felt. And again, the blue is compression. Okay, and then the wave, yeah, moving towards the southeast. Yeah, but you can see this time here, the fault compressed and moved up towards the north. There was a 3.0. One person said they felt that one. A 3.5. Now, no one said they felt that, but the largest one was a 4.0. 9 people said they felt that one. Let's go to the felt map. Looks like, again, Boise, Idaho. Now, the moment tensor ball here, again, shows compression. Yeah, mountain building. This earthquake moved going towards the northwest just slightly. And there was a 3.9 today. 7 people said they felt that earthquake. They do not have a moment tensor ball. And again, yeah, Boise, Idaho. Like I said, can you imagine if you have a 7.5, the amount of damage and probably deaths from such a large earthquake? 40 earthquakes within the last, since the 27th, the last week. Looks like most of them started on the 27th, probably because of the X-flares and the coronal mass ejections. I talked about how the activity on the sun does affect the earth. The 4.0 was 10 miles in depth. A lot of them are 9 and 8 miles in depth. It looks like almost 10. There was a 2.5. That was much shallower. 2.5 miles in depth. And some 4s and some 3s. See, the smaller earthquakes, the 2.5 here was 3.1 miles in depth. 2.6, 2.6. 114 earthquakes within the last month. And let's go down to when they all started. Like I said, the majority of the larger ones started on the 27th. But we have it going back to the 6th. And yeah, we got a lot of 2s. A lot of 2s. Now you remember Hank Hessler, who is or was in charge of geology there at Yellowstone, said that when they started having magnitude 2s, they would be greatly concerned. But this is outside of Yellowstone. This is along the Snake River Plateau. It's been created because of the hot spot for Yellowstone's hot spot, where the magma comes up and moved along that location. So that's when the Sawtooth Fault Zone was created, when the hot spot moved up through this area. Yeah, lots of earthquakes. Yeah, we got this one here. This is probably the other 3.9 right there. That might be the 3.8 that they're saying happened. And I'll pull it over. Yeah. These are doublets, where they happen back to back. Let me go to the seismic signature there. There we go. Yeah, you can see it's a long P wave on it. The P wave is the wave of the earthquake that goes directly through the earth. And then the secondary wave would be going around the outside edge of the earth. Yeah. And they're all sharpened points. This is all fault movement. Okay, let me close this out. And let's see. This here is all the earthquakes that were recorded at Denny Creek. Yeah, lots of them. Very concerning. Like I said, the 31st they had that hydrothermal eruption there at Biscuit Basin, and they are concerned about more eruptions. That's why it's closed. They don't have a live webcam that we can watch. They watch it, so they're going to be the ones that decide to tell us what we know about and don't know about. Yeah, I don't trust them to tell us everything. I don't trust them at all. They've given us no reason to trust them. Let's see if they reported this one. This is a shallow earthquake at 4:01 Universal Time. Warm Spring, Idaho. Yeah, they did report it. To the south of Yellowstone. And that is definitely not a 0.5, like I said. Yeah, they give us no reason to trust them. A lot of popping, all fault movement. Think of a garden hose that you have water running through. And you take the hose and you clamp it down, you kink it. And then you open it up and kink it again and open it up. And that's what's happening here. As the magma rises there in the system, it slowly melts the rock and rises up, melts the rock pops and hits another area where it's colder rock. It sits there for a second, yeah, in this case, yeah, a little microsecond, melts it, pops it again. Yeah, look at all that. And here's the spectrogram, which I just showed you. That actually comes in as a magnitude 2.62. Yeah. Yeah. They do not give us any reason to believe any of the bull that they feed us. Someone mentioned yesterday about we're all little mushrooms. The true saying, the full saying, is they treat us like mushrooms, keep us in the dark, and feed us S-H-I-T. Yeah, the camera's really shaking, isn't it? I don't see the trees wiggling, so it's not from the wind. That's ground vibration. You know, with the park having such narrow roads to get in and out, if there was a major eruption, there's no way those people would get out in time. No way. You know, and you would have probably thousands of people that would be instantly vaporized. The first thing that would happen would be, if you noticed, if you had a second, the blood in your brain would boil before you're vaporized. And they don't care. They don't care. All they worry about is the dollars. Anyways, that's what I have for you today. If you have any thoughts or comments or questions, please put it down below. Always be prepared for a disaster. Where I live, as the crow flies, as they say, I'm about 500 miles from Yellowstone. If it was a major eruption, I would get probably 3 feet of ash. Buildings would collapse. You can't breathe that stuff in. It sticks to the inside of your lungs and you can't cough it up because it's particles of glass that's mixed in with the ash. And basically, it sticks in there and fills up your lungs and you suffocate. Yeah, a lot of activity going on. Yeah, I don't know what the current numbers of people at the park are. Oh, another thing I want to mention. Do you see these dead trees here in the back and in the front? These grew up during what they call the quiet period. And then the activity at Yellowstone reactivated. And the gases that were coming up, that are coming up, killed these trees from the ground up. The gases killed the trees. It wasn't beetles, it wasn't a virus, anything like that. The gases is what's killing these trees off. So I hope you're prepared. Yeah, this is an unusual amount of activity along the Snake River Plateau. Yeah, it shows that the magma is coming up there at Yellowstone Lake. It's actually moving under the ground to the west, putting pressure on these fault lines And that's why you're getting earthquakes. So if you have any questions, you got thoughts, please put it down below. Thank you again for watching. Thank you very much for the cups of coffee. Always be prepared. Thank you for the super stickers. Yeah, down below the video, it has where you can put a super sticker. And for the PayPal donations. Yeah, went to buying a new vacuum cleaner. Yeah. And I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.